What is up, everybody? I'm George Mossey. This is the Family Chantel Season 4, Episode 12 podcast. Go ahead and grab a snack, grab a drink, and let's see if we can't uncover something you might have missed on this episode of the Family Chantel. The trip back from the DR to Atlanta has proven that not much at all has changed. In fact, the silence that we were experiencing during the trip back has shown that it's actually made things worse. Pedro feels that they no longer share the love and connection that they did when they first got together. Chantel feels that Pedro has simply just given up. The trip to the DR did not have the results that Chantel expected. Pedro has decided that he wants a separation, and on the way back to Atlanta, he is contemplating whether or not he should separate in the home, in a different room, or outside of the home in an apartment. All the while, Chantel is quiet, just thinking about what she can possibly do next to try and save a marriage that she feels might be too far gone to save. Pedro decides that the separation can be done while they're under the same roof, or at least he believes that it can. This actually gives Chantel a glimmer of hope and feeling that he isn't ready to leave and he's not ready to give up. But the in-home separation has proven that Chantel isn't willing to respect Pedro's space, and she is definitely going out of her way to try to reboot their relationship, even though Pedro wants this time to think and have this time to decide what he really wants to do. During this in-home separation, nothing has really changed. Chantel says that Pedro is still avoiding her completely. He is still acting as though she isn't there. She said the only difference now is he's not badgering her and he's just simply ignoring her and making it appear that she's not there. They pass each other in the halls of the home as though they are complete strangers. Nicole meets with Alejandro back in the DR, and she has a conversation with him regarding their failed attempt at telling Lydia about his divorce and getting her blessing on the relationship. Now, Alejandro is very open to say that he doesn't feel that Nicole needs any blessing or permission from her mom, Lydia, to be in a relationship or to be with him. Nicole feels that being with Alejandro would jeopardize her relationship with her family, which is a very small family as it is, and she just started talking to Pedro recently, and the idea of not being able to speak to her mother or brother to be in a relationship with Alejandro doesn't seem like a decision that she can make without a long, drawn-out thought process. Nicole reveals to Alejandro that the issue was never that he was married or could have been married. The issue was always his attitude. Alejandro fires back and says that the attitude of Lydia is just as bad, and the only way to have an actual conversation with Lydia is to put tape over her mouth, say what you need to say, and then remove the tape. There's no other way to have a civilized conversation. And as we saw when he did visit her last week, he walked in the door and he wasn't able to get in one word edgewise from all of the jabs and names that she began calling him. In the end, Alejandro decides to give Nicole an ultimatum. He says it's me or your family. And I know a lot of people feel ultimatums are not fair. And I feel like any ultimatum where you have to pick between the person you love and the family that raised you and loves you, I feel like it's never a win situation. Nicole actually walks away from the situation, and Alejandro says if you decide to pick your family, you are leaving this where it is and you're making a huge mistake. Nicole still makes her decision as she is the one in control, and she walks away from this relationship once again. Lydia does reveal to Nicole that she acted as a mediator for Pedro and Chantel, which shocked Nicole, and she even found it to be weird and strange. But Lydia goes on to say that it's important for her to be involved in what's going on with Pedro because he is all alone in Atlanta, and she needed to know the situation that was happening around him in order to understand what she needed to do to help him. Nicole does understand that, but she also feels that she doesn't get the same respect from her mom when it comes to her relationship and her love life. She even brought up that her mom, Lydia, did get involved with a married man and had 2 children with that said married man, Pedro Jose. And Nicole feels that Lydia needs to be a little easier on her and her decisions in her love life and actually let Nicole make these decisions on her own as an adult. Lydia does fire back and say that her relationship with Pedro Jose was never an actual relationship. She did sleep with him and she did have kids with him, but there was never any relationship going on. And she said that she did go to university and become a lawyer on the dime of Pedro Jose. So it was a more beneficial arrangement for her rather than the arrangement with Alejandro, where to this day, Lydia feels that there isn't anything that Alejandro can do for Nicole. I think the actual takeaway from this is a relationship isn't always about what the other person can do for you. Sometimes love doesn't cost anything, and sometimes love is something that you just want and don't need money in return. One of the most alarming scenes of this season was watching Pedro go to a divorce and immigration attorney to get information on filing for divorce from Chantel. He actually learned that his immigration status and citizenship status will not be affected by this, which actually seemed to relieve him and make him feel a little more confident in the process. It seems before he understood what the immigration status meant with a divorce, he wasn't really ready for a divorce and not ready to file for a divorce, and a separation was the direction that Pedro wanted to go. Now that he understands his immigration status and he knows that an actual divorce will not affect what he can do, where he can live, and becoming a citizen, it appears that he has made up his mind and a divorce is definitely the way to go. We also learned that a contested divorce costs $10,000 contrary to a non-contested divorce that costs $5,000. Now, we did see Chantel say earlier in another episode she would refuse to sign any papers and she would not give Pedro the divorce. That definitely sounds like a contested divorce to me. On a positive note, we did see the baby grand piano that Miss Karen had ordered come to her home, and she actually had River come over to help her install the piano in her home. One of the few times that we've seen River this season. I know that River's been very busy with his music career, and he's actually been releasing a new song every week all summer, so it was nice to see River back on the show. Unfortunately, the circumstances and conversation around that scene were definitely around the idea of why Pedro has decided to leave Chantel after such a long time and whether or not he has fooled them this whole time. After a FaceTime call with Lydia and Nicole, Pedro has decided it is definitely time to end this relationship. This is one of the hardest scenes to watch of this season. We watch Pedro go out into the backyard and have a conversation with Chantel and tell her that he has had enough and he can no longer deal with the relationship as it is taking place today. He said that after all that they've been through, he doesn't feel like they have that connection, and he doesn't feel like he's ever going to receive the support from Chantel that he needs, and he is ready for a divorce. This was a very heartbreaking scene because Chantel recalls a time when Pedro told her when they were dating that he would never leave her, and she put all of her trust in him, and she didn't listen to anything anyone had to say about their relationship and the negativity around them, and she gave her heart to him fully. And now she feels alone and betrayed, and not only that, but her trust feels betrayed as well. This has been a really tough season to watch. And guys, I want to make sure everyone understands again, these are real people going through a real divorce, going through real relationship problems. Please be mindful of the comments that you make and the things that you say during this difficult time for everyone involved. All right, guys, that's it for this podcast episode of The Family Chantel, Season 4, Episode 12. I'm your host, George Mossey. Make sure you're live tweeting with me every Monday night for The Family Chantel. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you all really soon.